Hi, this is the next to the last meeting of the Queen Rearing Workshop for 2025. It is the 12th of June, and we are looking at some cassette results and winding up the workshop, even though it takes a couple more weeks to proof our queens. Oh, I put the queen wheel in case we need to refer to it. And if you didn't get one of these, remind me to make sure that you go home with one, because we are at the point where things get really confusing, because we've started queens and we've started another set of queens. And I think we're on the third or fourth set now. It's been an interesting season. So for tonight, I want to recap what we did last Saturday using Darius's pictures. He's been really good about taking pictures every time he comes, which is every week, basically. Then we plan what we're going to do this Saturday. And we are wrapping up. We are out of brood. We can't make more mating nukes. But we have about 20 queen cells that we need to either put them in hair curler cages to store short term, very short term, like until Tuesday, Wednesday, or get them into mating nukes. Or I'd like to talk about how to Demarres, and we'll demonstrate Demarres in an easy way. I think much easier than most of the explanations that you ever get of Demarres. So these queen cells are the ones from the cassette. Nicot queen cells can go home in the hair curler cages Saturday or by next Tuesday. If you want me to keep them a little longer, that's fine. Most of the queens already emerged should be proofed and ready in about 2 weeks. We only have a couple that are ready right now. Queens from this cassette are going to take several more weeks to proof. So a little after the 4th of July, we'll be sure they're ready. You can always take them home earlier, but to be sure that you're putting a queen in that you know has a good laying pattern of worker brood, that will take several more weeks. We will keep maintaining what I call the queen farm. All these little mating nukes that we have, so each queen has her own little place to return to after her mating flights and lay her eggs. We'll have to do that for some time. So we still need help in the apiary about twice a week, even though we're not meeting after next Thursday. Let's make this next Thursday our last meeting, unless I love to talk, I love to present. I didn't really go into queen genetics, but sometimes that's too much for people while they're trying to do a hands-on workshop like this. And then after July 4th, our resource hives will have rebuilt their brood nests, and we will have enough brood to go ahead and do more grafting. I feel bad about the Doolittle graft because due to the bad feed, the rogue queen that got into at least one of the cell builders and destroyed almost all of the cells. And then the weather too. If people want to do the scoop type graft and see if they can do it and get more success, then let's do that. But it has to be after July 4th. So we'll talk about that. How about next Thursday? And whoever wants to do it, if you would share the emails with each other, set it up. I'm retired. I'm here basically all the time. So any day that works out, it doesn't have to be Saturday, but it can be Saturday. Whatever works out. If it's midweek for whoever wants to come, and just one more time, try that Chinese grafting tool or that queen plunger. If you want to do it one more time, and I'll be happy to send you the picture of the success rate because in cell builders that don't have a queen roaming around killing off our graft cells, you will have a much better success rate. I took this picture just yesterday. We have about 20 well-developed queen cells from the last cassette. And you'll notice the little cup holders that tells you that this is a cassette graft, the Nicot cassette system. And it came out really well. This is how many cups we had, and they almost all were drawn out. And I'll go into that later, but first I want to review what we did 2 weeks ago from this Saturday, we added bees and queen cells to each compartment of double compartmented styrofoam mini nukes. So if you don't remember that or didn't watch it, go back. It's recorded. And on those, we used painter's tape to make sure that the queen cells stayed and didn't drop down below. We went back and checked them last week on the, I'm getting a little confused, but last Saturday. And we looked for the cleanly excised opening that told us that a live virgin queen had emerged. Now, you could just set these up and not look at them for 2 weeks, but we knew that we were going to need to reuse anything we could, bees, mating nukes, or anything. So we went in and checked. You could just leave them alone, but we went to look because we needed to know how many. So here's one of those queen cells turned upside down, and you can see how it's been nicely excised. She came out alive. If it was chewed on the side or something, we'd know she didn't make it out alive. Now, oops. There's a double compartment. How do you keep the queen from going over to the other side? And so our genius team came up with a clear tape hinge. 2 pieces of what's called table protector, clear table protector, and hinged in the middle. So here it is folded over back so we can get to one side to check. So here's a cleanly excised opening with a flap hanging that shows a live virgin queen emerged. We went through each one of these. It's back there on the upper right. Then we looked at the other mating nukes, the entrances, to see how active they are. When they are more active, I have here, if you look across this front row, where the red tape is, I've blocked off most of the entrance to cut down robbing, drifting, etc. So the entrances that are facing, and we try to do every other entrance not facing the same direction, just to not confuse the returning queens. We hope that they will get back to the mating nuke they emerged from and not go into another mating nuke and duke it out with whatever queen is actually there. So looking at the red tapes across, we have 1, 2, 3, and then at the end, there's no tape, but that is one more entrance there. One more mating nuke entrance. Oh, it's a black piece of tape actually covering most of the entrance. So looking at the 4 pieces of tape going across, those are 4 entrances. One is super active. All those queen cells were put in at the same time. One, there's a queen emitting enough pheromone who has emerged. Looking at the other side of this, if you can flip it around, this is the other side. Number 8 was active on the other side. If you look at those numbers 7 and 9, the entrance activity on both sides of that box indicates that queens probably emerged in all 3. And we did see 2 of the queens, and we're pretty sure the 3rd one actually did emerge as well. So this one was very successful. I don't know if it's because it's a 10 frames together box divided into 3 compartments of 3 frames each. I don't know if that had something to do with it. Possible. The right size, holding heat correctly, I'm not sure. But the others do not show that kind of activity. So those 3 in a row were very successful. And you can tell just by the activity level. Then I made some notes. I keep saying again and again, keep the frames over the hives when you're looking for a queen. Because those young queens are jumpy and flighty, not flightly, flighty. They really are. They just aren't settled down like a mated queen. Again, here's holding the frame over the hive you've got open until you're sure that you have her. Or just get all the bees back in if you can't spot her. We ran across one really interesting thing. We spotted an amber queen and a cordovan queen, and I can't remember how many others. But the cordovan is really interesting. It's a recessive, and it's kind of pretty. It's this queen right here. Can you see her? And she's so yellow. She's so yellow that her thorax is reddish. It's sort of like blue eyes. You can have two brown-eyed parents have a blue-eyed child because it's a recessive. That's an oversimplification of eye color, I know, but it's like that. It's a recessive, and because of that, you often don't see it. But it was just kind of neat. She's just so unusual. She's pretty. It doesn't have a significance other than that for what we are doing, but in research, color coding can sometimes tell you from what drone or from what queen the offspring came. One thing that we really talked about last Saturday was you're trying to point something out to somebody else, and they're saying, I don't know if I see it. If you take your hive tool and you pull down, notch the bottom of the cell you're looking at, just pull it down a little bit, people know right where to look. Then it's easier to see that egg, that royal jelly, that tiny, tiny larvae. Good trick to use. And then we were using our LED. That's the flashlight hanging over it too. LED flashlights help. So I showed you at the very beginning that we had about 20 queen cells that we need to find places for this Saturday. That's our #1 project. The queen was enclosed in this cassette to review for those of you who, and somebody might be joining in who hasn't seen this. This is the cassette. It's called a Nicot Genter. It's called a couple of different things. The queen is on this side. You can't see her in this picture. I think you can see her in the next picture. You put her in there for 5 days. You have to keep her in until she lays the eggs and until the eggs eclose. If you take her out before the eggs have eclosed, that royal jelly's formed around the egg, the larvae is emerging from the egg, the workers may just clean up the eggs and throw them away. And this happens a lot in queen rearing, that you need to make sure that you are working with a larva that has eclosed from the egg. Here we are. Here's a close-up of her. She's not happy. She's waiting to get out. 5 days is stressful for queens. If you have to leave them in another day or two, it's very stressful. Good chance you'll lose your queen. She'll just get kind of superseded. Part of it is, if you've got her in a fairly large hive stack, and she's in there for 5 days, she's not spreading her pheromones. And this is where it really makes a difference to understand that queens spread their pheromones by contact. And the workers contact her, they attennate her, they clean her, they touch her, they're constantly with her in physical contact, and then they spread her pheromones throughout the hive. So one of the reasons she would get superseded is she's a last year's queen, so she's a little bit older. She's not spreading her pheromones. You finally let her out. In 5 days, the bees may have said, hey, we don't have a queen. There's not enough queen pheromone here. And they may have started the supersedure procedure. If it's exactly 5 days, it may be okay. But if you push it more than that, if she doesn't lay immediately, and it's actually, you're hoping for 4 days you can release her at, but every once in a while she takes it a day to decide to settle down and lay there. She doesn't want to, but she'll do it if she has to. But when she finally does, okay, then it's 4 days from then. For the cassette system, these are the little cup holders. And they will go onto these grafting bars here. We've been through this before in previous recordings. You can take one of those and you push it down on the other side of the cassette. This is flipped over. These are the grafting cups into which the queen has laid. And you flipping the cassette entirely over and taking them off. And she laid through the holes. On the side she was on, she put her little tush in here and laid the eggs exactly. So you have no scooping. I love this method. And then you pick it up. Here's the little tiny cup with larvae inside in the cell cup holder. And there's 2 in this one. It's kind of cute. Oops. I guess the nurse bees couldn't move fast enough to remove the extra eggs. When you've got a robust queen trapped in a little tiny cassette like that, she just goes around laying eggs. and it's up to the workers to take them out. This one they missed. That's perfect size larvae, except there's two of them. I'm not sure if what the bees would do. And then you put those cups onto the grafting bars. And this is this is people deciding whether or not we got the right size. Do we have the right size? Do we not have the right size? We can be picky. She kind of lays in a spiral pattern. So if they're too old here, sometimes the ones around the corner of the cassette are a little younger. Maybe just a half day, but that can be enough. This one here is in the center is too old. A larva that's opaque, white, and completely curled is just a little older than the perfect age. But the egg in the upper right-hand corner is too young. We hit it really well. This is about perfect right here. Not white, still clear. This one's maybe just a tiny bit older. That's close enough. And the queen laid an extra egg in there because she's frustrated. She's a good layer and she didn't have any unoccupied cells in which to lay. So I suspect the workers would just take that egg out later on. Now, we had all these graft cells, got them on the bars, and the cell builder that I'd put together, everything has gone wrong this season that could go wrong. I can't tell you why, but the bees disappeared. They couldn't even have gone back to the hive that they came from. So they just simply weren't there. I have no idea why. We needed this. Your cell builder must be hopelessly queenless so that they take your grafts in your little cups and they go, we have to raise these out as queens. You're forcing those nurse bees to do what nurse bees want to do. So we took one of the resource hives, B, the one in which the queen had been in the cassette for 5 days. And thinking about it, we decided that because the queen had not been spreading her pheromones throughout the hive, the bees might accept the grafts, and they did. I'll have to remember that. I was surprised that they did it, actually. I actually was not sure this would work, but everybody who was there last Saturday, we were a success. In beekeeping, if you know the concepts, sometimes you can guide the bees to do what you want them to do. Just sometimes you have to think like a bee. Okay, there aren't queen pheromones throughout the whole hive. There's not enough queen pheromone. And then we took the queen out completely. We did not return her. We returned her to a little nuke is what we did instead. Just kept her out completely, and it fooled the bees. They were hopelessly queenless.
Hey, Eli,
Yes.
silly question for you. If I buy a mated queen and put her immediately in the cassette and then put her into a builder nuke, will she lay there for the 5 days and then I can let her in and just use those to start my own queens? Rather than turning her free in the box and let her establish herself with the new hive,
Yeah.
put her right in the cassette from the get-go.
The problem with that is you don't know what happened with that mated queen unless you know the person who just put it in. Unless you know that person, you don't know how long she's been in there.
I'm saying if I do a mail order queen, or I go and purchase one at a shop and take it.
You don't know how long she's been in the cage. She could have been in that cage for weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it because of that. I'd give her at least a little while to lay well. And even then, that would be giving her two stresses close together. When queens are put in that cassette for 5 days, and then the other thing is she won't have been accepted by the entire hive. She suddenly, if you let her out of the cassette and she's suddenly wandering around, I'm not sure that that would be the same as letting her emerge the way you usually do, eating through the candy, and then she starts working her way through the hive and she's accepted. Yeah, the stress of being in the cassette is enough that you may have to replace the queen. If it's just the 5 days, you're okay, I have found. But if it's an older overwintered queen and you go 7 days, I have found that she gets superseded. And I think part of it is she wasn't spreading the pheromones. Yeah, so the thing about mated queens that you buy at stores and such, There's one very local store that I have had a conversation with the owner who could not understand what I was saying when I talked about how to bank queens. When stores or people buy a lot of queens, you can't pay the express shipping per queen. So you order 30, 50, whatever you think you're going to be able to sell within a reasonable amount of time. You have to bank them. Queen banking, there's a very good pamphlet on it by Ellen Topitzhofer, I think. I have to write the name out. I think it's Topitzhofer. And she was at Oregon State University. She explains quite a bit of it, of how to do it correctly. Most people don't know how to do it correctly. They'll get one shipment of queens in, sell most of them, then they get a new shipment in and they mix the queens. You can't do that. They're now at different pheromone levels. The attendant nurse bees that you've put in there, if you understand that much about queen banking, still, and you've renewed those nurse bees, still you have older queens now and younger queens. You have queens that have been caged longer and queens that haven't been. So now you have different pheromone levels and they may pick favorites. And then worker bees do this. And when they pick favorites and the queens are trapped in those screen cages, the queens have to stand on the screen. When they pretty much to get fed, to interact with the workers, they have to. When they do that, if the workers are attacking them, instead of stinging them, they may chew off their tarsal pads or something like that, something you can't see. It's a very small wound, but it's enough that that queen is now defective. And when you go, somebody buys that defective queen, you can't see it. And we often don't know why bees supersede a queen that we put in there. So if the person you buy the queens from doesn't know how to bank them, for example, is mixing them, doesn't renew the nurse bees, and people are banking them for like a couple of weeks because they need their money back, right? Got to make a profit. And I don't blame them, except they should know enough not to mix it, the different batches of queens. Okay, I went on too long about that, but it's something that really bothers me that people would be selling queens and not know what they're doing. And the first person, if you don't know if the person knows what they're doing, just get there the day the delivery comes in and make sure you get the new queens. Okay, then you're going to be okay, because probably the person that shipped long distance knew what they were doing. And you're getting a fresh queen that has not been caged for a long period of time or attacked by the attendant bees or whatever. Okay, so we tricked these bees. We successfully tricked them by taking the queen in the cassette out and putting the grafting frames in, and they went, we are hopelessly queenless. We are now a cell builder. And you can use a full-sized hive for a cell builder. People that start their queens early in the year actually use a full-sized hive. It's actually the most secure way to make a cell builder early in the year. I mean, you've got lots of resources. Take the queen out for say 24 hours, put the graft cells in, and they'll start drawing them out for you. We were careful when we did this to make sure that we put the grafting frames in between two frames of brood. So one beekeeper went in and got frames of brood from lower boxes, brought them up to the top box, mostly for ease, for us to be able to get back in to get the grafts in and out and to be able to check them. So we did it in the top of 3 westerns. And we're careful to put the grafting frames inserted between 2 frames of brood in the top box in the same position where the queen in the cassette frame had been. We were careful not to place the graft frames directly under the syrup jar. We feed by putting syrup jars right on the inner cover quite often. And I think in this case we did that. So we want to make sure that nothing drips onto the graft frames. Worked out gorgeously. Got a great take. That's all the number of cups we had. We need to get more cup holders for next year. Okay, the queen farm. We do not have matching equipment. If there's one thing that I really, really would like to get, it's standardized uniform equipment. Instead, we just stick a queen cell wherever we can. But on the other hand, you get to see how many options there are. I mentioned the 3-in-1 Actually, the 3-in-1 I had to change out because those bees grew so fast. Those of you who were here last Saturday, these 3 here were inside the 3 sets of 3 frames on a 10-frame base. That queen mating setup. And we have 5 frames, we have 4 frames, we have doubles. Okay, we just used everything we can. The styrofoams are back here that I showed at the very beginning. So I'm calling this the queen farm now. We've got all this equipment out. I'm not planning on putting it away until we're sure we've done the last of the queen rearing for this year. And as I said, I think people will want to do a little more grafting after the 4th of July. Now, we have an apiary map. It's a little hard to read. When you come on Saturday, this is the apiary map. And these numbers, the people who've been here know the numbers refer to mating nukes. Letters refer to resource support hives, the RS hives. I also call them the robbing stealing hives because that's what really resource support hive is. We steal from it. Now, we need every possible place we have to put 20. We have about 20 queen cells on that first, way back at the beginning. I showed you we had about 20 cells. We have got 20 slots. However, one way we can make places to put queen cells is to Demarres. The word Demarres puts people into a panic frequently. I'm going to explain it, I think, in a way that makes more sense. We have 4 hives here, J, H, G, I. Those 4 hives are 3 boxes. We're going to take the old queen and shush her down to the bottom. We can smoke her down, we can shake her down, we just make sure she's not in the top 2 boxes. This is the complicated diagram you always see, and people just panic when they see this and they get upset. This is from the Beekeeper's Handbook, which is a wonderful book. But if this confuses you, don't worry. We're going to look at this diagram, and I made this diagram simpler. So we have those 4, J, G, H, and I. There's a queen already. We are going to take the 3-box stack and rearrange things. So we have a lot to do on Saturday. We can do it all together, the first one, and then people can split up and each take a hive if they feel comfortable, a hive stack, and do this. We're going to take each one of these 4 sets, hive stacks of 3 boxes each, put the old queen down at the bottom, and give her like 2 frames of brood. These are 8-frame hives, so 1 frame would probably be okay, but let's say 2 frames of brood. Put it down there. Give her the rest, the other 6. These are, I do a lot of 8-frame. So 2 frames of brood down with her, 6 empty frames, drawn is fine for her to lay in. Then above that, we're going to put a queen excluder right above her. So over to the right, I wrote it out with more words. QE, queen excluder, right there. Then we might put some brood there, but the most important thing is brood at the bottom and brood in the very top box. In the very top box, we're going to put the queen cell because we have 20 queen cells, and this will help us place 4 queen cells. We're going to put a little cell protector on her just because it's a good idea when you're doing something where the bees might not recognize right away that they need a queen. If we were going to wait a day and come back the next day, we might not worry about that cell protector. But let's go ahead and put the cell protector on. Open at the bottom. This will be the hair curler style cell protector. So we just snap it open at the bottom. Some brood frames up here. Why put brood frames up there? We don't want the bees to raise out their own queen. We want them to see this queen cell, which is going to emerge about next Tuesday. So we're doing this on Saturday. It'll only be a couple days before it emerges. But we want to make sure that lots of young nurse bees to support that emerging queen come out and start interacting with her. We will give her her own separate entrance. We will face it 180 degrees away from the other entrance. so that when she, in 6 to 10 days post-emergence, does her mating flight, she's not going to run into the front entrance. She's going to go out the back door and hopefully come in the back door. Right under her, we're going to do a second queen excluder. Demarres usually only require one queen excluder. In this case, I don't trust that skinny little virgin queen with the skinny little hips to not sneak through one queen excluder. So we're going to make double sure. We're going to put one here and one down below. Just in case she sneaks through one, she won't be able to sneak through two. And she probably won't even sneak through one. So the queen at the bottom will have lots of room to lay. 2 frames of brood, but that gives her 6 frames to keep her busy laying on. And then some brood up at the top to make sure that that queen cell is getting lots of attention so she can turn into a wonderful queen. So I hope that makes sense. Anytime you do a Demarres, the point of the Demarres is you separate a laying queen from most of her brood. And does this make sense? If it doesn't, stop me. This is really what a Demarres is about. Sometimes up here, you keep that queen the whole season, and people do this and they make a 2-queen system and they keep where it says brood okay. They just start putting honey supers in there. Some people swear by the 2-queen system. Others say, doesn't work. The bees are putting too much into the brood. It depends. It's worth a try. Okay, if that's good, I'm going to one last look. There's 4 of these hives. I marked them on the apiary map. We have a copy on Saturday, and we can split up and do it once we demonstrate how to do it once. Then it's easy to do the other 3, I hope. Okay, we also, in the center of this apiary map, have all these funny little numbers. And if you remember, I was writing like crazy last Saturday, writing down the numbers and the status of each of these. The status was, let me show you really, oh, here we go. I wrote the status on a mating nuke log and I typed it up. So we know what number we're going into. And then when we have the number here, like this one says 5, we need to check. For some reason, I wasn't sure about 5. 6, we saw 1 egg. And something looked funny about the brood, but it might be, it might just be the way we might have put in dead brood for them to clean up. Sometimes we do that. So I've got notes written here on each mating nuke number. We're going to go down. The ones that I showed you the entrance and I said we know there's a queen there were 7, 8, 9. In 7, we saw an amber queen. In 8, we saw the Cordovan queen that I showed you pictures of. 9, we suspect there were so many bees there. And I actually expanded those 3 out because there were so many bees attracted to apparently queen pheromone, even from those virgin queens, that they should just be making their mating flights now if the weather would get good. It was not good enough today, but they should be flying out in the next few days. Okay, so we'll be working off this mating log. And the numbers will correlate. Here's 7, 8, 9, for example, right here in the center. And I circled, I know this looks sloppy. Are you prepared for this? The pink circle means we think we have a queen there. We had an emerged cell, flap hanging neatly incised, like as I showed at the very beginning. We checked and we saw some evidence of a queen. Some of these I've crossed out because clearly there's no queen there. There's a few that we have bees, like where I drew an arrow here. The bees, if there's any bees in 30, we should move them into a number of these. 37 looked as if a queen had emerged, but there were very few bees when I checked really quickly. I checked yesterday, and these are the styrofoam nukes that have the clear lid, so I can just lift up. I don't even have to lift. I can just look through the clear lid and go, too few bees, lots of bees. There's one of these that definitely needs a check, 34. I have a note on the mating log to check that. 37, I have a note that there's very few bees. Then where it says check, 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 we need to check. and see if we don't believe there's a queen there and we've only used up 4 of our 20 cells. If anyone wants to take them home, go ahead. We'll put a queen cell in a hair curler cage for you to take home. But if we have 16 left, we will start putting them into the ones that we don't know if there's a queen. Because if there is a queen, she's not going to put up with a newcomer coming in, right? She's going to kill that one. If there's no queen there, now they have a queen cell, which is emerging. We think about Tuesday, and all is good. She will be able to take over that nuke, that mating nuke. Does that make sense? Sometimes you do backup. Some people, when they do set up mating nukes at the beginning, we could have put 2 cells into each mating nuke, and that gives you twice the chance that a queen will emerge. One reason why there might not be any queens in here, even if a queen did emerge, is that 25% of the queens statistically do not return from a mating flight. So they've emerged. Everything seems to be going fine. They go out, they make their mating flight, and we don't know why. Could be predators, could be they get lost, could be they're not strong enough. They don't make it back. So your queens, 25%, 1 out of 4, disappear at this point. That's pretty much, I think, everything I had to say. I've marked things up and organized it as well as I can. Mating logs, apiary map. I can stop recording now. I think we can have like 2 teams of people, or we can all do Demarres at the same time and then all do checks at the same time. There's a lot of maintenance I haven't mentioned. There's always the feeding. We haven't cleaned the bottom boards in a while. I'll need people about twice a week. Anybody that wants to pick a day of the week. Tuesday, Wednesday are really good days. Tuesday, I'll have to calculate it out. Tuesday, Wednesday would be when you might get a chance to hear a queen tooting or piping or quacking. It's possible. It has happened in the past. You got to be right there. I'm assuming the weather will be good after being lousy tomorrow. Saturday, it's supposed to get better. And then hopefully we're back into the 70s. And I hope your blackberry flows are really going well. I hope so. I don't know. Things are just really starting to bloom on the top of this hill. But down below, oh, it looks gorgeous, the blackberry bloom. Let me stop the recording, okay? Let's see. Where did I put it? Here we go. Thanks so much for coming. Okay, and then we'll go to questions, okay?